I want you to do something uncomfortable right now. I want you to open your bank account, not later, not after this video, right now. Look at the number and be honest with yourself because most people watching this already know the truth. They just don't want to face it. You're working harder than ever and somehow you're still not getting ahead. You make money, but it disappears. You try to save, but something always pulls it back out, and deep down there's a quiet fear you don't say out loud, what if I'm doing everything wrong? I've spent my entire life studying money, building businesses, and watching how people behave with wealth, and I can tell you something very clearly. Say it, it's not the economy that's destroying most people in 2026. It's not inflation, it's not bad luck, it's your habits, and the dangerous part is most of these habits feel normal, they feel harmless, they feel like things everyone else is doing. But let me tell you the truth, most people will never say to your face, normal financial behavior is exactly what keeps people broke. And if you don't identify these habits right now, they will quietly destroy your future one decision at a time. Not in one big collapse, but slowly, silently, year after year, until one day you wake up and realize you've been working for decades with nothing to show for it. Now here's where most people make a mistake. They think wealth is built by doing something extraordinary, a big investment, a lucky opportunity, a sudden breakthrough. That's nonsense. Wealth is not built in big moments, it's built in small repeated behaviors, the ones you barely notice. And the same is true for poverty. It doesn't come from one bad decision, it comes from habits repeated daily that slowly drain your life. So what I'm going to do in this video is simple. I'm going to show you the 8 habits I've seen destroy more wealth than any market crash ever could, and more importantly, I'm going to show you why people keep doing them even when they know they shouldn't, because if you don't understand that part, you will fall right back into the same trap. Now listen carefully. Some of these habits are going to make you uncomfortable. You might feel defensive. You might feel like I'm talking directly about your life. That's a good sign because the people who get uncomfortable are the ones who still have a chance to change. The people who ignore this, they stay exactly where they are. Now let's start with the first habit. And this one alone has destroyed more financial futures than almost anything else I've ever seen. Habit number 1, living a lifestyle you haven't earned yet. This is the silent killer of wealth in 2026. And it's worse today than it has ever been before because now you're not just competing with your neighbors. You're competing with the entire internet. You scroll for 5 minutes and then you see people your age driving luxury cars, traveling the world, wearing expensive clothes, and your brain starts telling you something dangerous. I should be living like that too. But what you don't see is the truth behind that lifestyle, debt, pressure, stress, and in many cases, complete financial instability. I've seen people making $50,000 a year living like they make $150,000 and they don't even realize they're digging a hole they may never escape because every time you spend money to look successful, you're trading your future freedom for a temporary illusion. Let me make this very clear. If you are trying to look rich, you are almost guaranteed to stay poor. Real wealth is quiet. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need approval. But fake wealth, it's loud. It's visible. And it's incredibly expensive to maintain. Now here's the part most people don't understand. This habit doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like progress. You get the new phone, the better car, the nicer apartment, and for a moment it feels like you're moving forward. But financially you're standing still, or worse, you're moving backwards. And the longer you stay in this cycle, the harder it becomes to escape because your lifestyle becomes a prison. You need more money just to maintain the image. So you work harder, you stress more, but you never actually get ahead. Now think about this for a second. What's more important? Looking successful for other people or actually being financially free because you cannot have both, at least not in the beginning? Every dollar you spend trying to impress someone is a dollar that could have been working for you, growing, compounding, building something real. And here's the dangerous part. Most people don't stop. They upgrade again and again until one day they realize they built a life they can't afford, and by then it's too late to fix it quickly. So here's what I want you to ask yourself honestly right now. How much of what you spend is actually for you and how much of it is for other people? Because that answer will tell you exactly why your money isn't growing. And this brings me to the second habit, and this one is even more dangerous because people think it's responsible when in reality it's quietly destroying their future. Habit number 2, saving money without building anything. Now I know what you're thinking. How can saving be a bad habit? That's exactly the problem, because most people believe they're being financially responsible, and when in reality they're slowly falling behind. Let me explain this carefully. Saving money is important, but if all you ever do is save, you are playing a defensive game in a system designed to reward offense. And in 2026, that's a losing strategy. You put money in your bank account, it sits there, it feels safe, it feels controlled, but quietly, something is happening in the background. Inflation is eating it, opportunities are passing you, and more importantly, you're not learning how to grow it. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Saving gives you a false sense of progress. You look at your balance going from $1,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 and you feel like you're moving forward, but you're not building wealth. You're just storing energy without ever using it, and money that isn't used properly eventually loses its power. Let me give you a simple truth. I didn't build wealth by saving money. I built wealth by understanding where money should go and why. There's a big difference because saving alone doesn't require skill. It requires discipline. Theirs but building wealth, that requires thinking. It requires decision making. It requires learning how to make money work instead of just protecting it. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm telling you that if your entire financial plan is earn money, save money, repeat, you will always be limited because you're never stepping into the real game. You're staying on the sidelines and watching others build while you hold. And over time, that gap becomes massive. Now, here's the re-hook you need to hear because this is where most people get stuck. They say, I don't have enough money to invest. That's not the real issue. The real issue is you haven't built the habit of making your money move because even small amounts, when used correctly, teach you the skill that actually builds wealth. And without that skill, even if someone hands you $1 million, you'll lose it. I've seen it happen over and over again. People win lotteries. People get sudden income. People have big breaks. And within a few years, they're back where they started. Why? Because they never learned how money works. They only learned how to hold it. And holding money is not the same as growing it. Now, let me ask you something honestly. If I gave you $10,000 today, would you know exactly what to do with it? Not guess, not hope, not follow someone else blindly. Would you actually know? Because if the answer is no, then the problem isn't how much money you have. It's the level of understanding you have, and that's what you need to fix. Now, here's what most people do next. And this is where they fall into the third habit. They realize saving isn't enough. They feel the pressure to grow, and instead of learning properly, they rush, they chase, they look for shortcuts, and that leads them straight into one of the most destructive financial behaviors I've ever seen. Habit number 3, chasing fast money instead of building real wealth. And this one is destroying more people today than ever before because now the illusion of easy money is everywhere. Habit number 3, chasing fast money instead of building real wealth. This is where most people lose control because once you realize saving isn't enough, your mind starts searching for speed. You don't want slow progress. You don't want patience. You want a breakthrough, and that's exactly where the trap is waiting. In 2026, the world is filled with opportunities that look like shortcuts, quick trades, trending assets, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, people making thousands overnight, and your brain starts to believe something dangerous. If they can do it, I can too. But what you don't see is the full picture. You're only seeing the wins. You're not seeing the losses. You're not seeing the people who tried the same thing and disappeared. And you're definitely not seeing how unstable that path really is. Let me tell you something clearly. Fast money is not the problem. The addiction to fast money is because once your brain gets used to quick wins, it loses the ability to think long term. You stop building, you start chasing, and when you're chasing, you're not in control anymore. You're reacting. Your emotional decisions with money are almost always expensive. Now here's where this habit becomes destructive. Let's say you make money quickly once. Maybe you got lucky. Maybe you caught the right trend. Maybe you followed the right advice at the right time. That win doesn't help you. It actually makes things worse because now you believe that's how money works. You start expecting speed. You start rejecting anything that feels slow, and you lose respect for the process that actually builds wealth. This is how people get trapped in cycles: win, lose, chase, lose bigger, lose, repeat. And every time they lose, they try to recover faster. They take bigger risks. They make worse decisions until eventually they're not just back at zero, they're below it. Now, let me give you a perspective that most people avoid. Wealth is not built on excitement, it's built on consistency. It's built on doing the same intelligent thing over and over again for a long time. And I know that doesn't sound attractive, it doesn't sell, it doesn't go viral, but it works, and more importantly, it's sustainable. Now, here's the re-hook you need to hear because this is where people either change or stay stuck. If your financial plan depends on something happening quickly, you don't have a plan, you have a gamble, and gambling is not a strategy. It's a reaction to impatience. Now ask yourself this honestly, how many times have you made a financial decision not because it made sense, but because it felt like an opportunity you might miss? That feeling, that urgency, that fear of missing out, that's not intuition, that's pressure, and pressure leads to mistakes. The people who build real wealth don't chase every opportunity, they ignore most of them. They wait, they observe, they move when it makes sense, not when it feels exciting, and that's why they win. Now here's the shift you need to make. Stop asking, how fast can I make money? Start asking, how long can I keep this working? Because that one question will change everything. Now, this leads directly into the fourth habit, and this one is quieter, less obvious, but just as destructive because it doesn't show up in your bank account immediately. It shows up over time in missed opportunities, in slow progress, in a life that never quite moves forward. Habit number 4, surrounding yourself with people who normalize being broke. And this one is more powerful than you think. Habit number 4, surrounding yourself with people who normalize being broke. This one doesn't look dangerous at first. There's no transaction, no risk, no obvious mistake. But over time, it quietly shapes how you think, how you act, and what you believe is possible. Let me explain something most people never realize. Your financial life is not just a result of your decisions. It's a result of the environment you tolerate, the conversations you listen to, the behaviors you accept, the standards you're surrounded by every single day. If the people around you constantly complain about money, struggle with discipline, and avoid responsibility, and treat being broke like it's normal, you will slowly start doing the same. Not because you want to, but because it feels familiar, and what feels familiar feels safe. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't rise to a higher level. They adjust to the level around them. So if your environment is average, you will become average. If your environment is financially careless, you will become financially careless, even if you have good intentions, even if you want more, because intention without environment rarely wins. Now let me show you how this actually plays out in real life. You decide to cut unnecessary spending. You say no to going out. You start focusing on saving and building, and immediately, you feel resistance. Your friends say, relax, it's not that serious. You only live once. Why are you being so strict? And slowly you start questioning yourself. You start thinking maybe you're overdoing it, so you give in just a little, then a little more, and before you know it, you're back in the same cycle you were trying to escape. Not because you're weak, but because your environment pulled you back. Now here's the rehook you need to hear, because this is where most people make a mistake. They think they need more motivation. You don't. You need better standards around you because motivation fades, but environment that's constant. That's influence. That's pressure in both directions. Now I'm not telling you to cut everyone off. I'm telling you to become aware, pay attention to the people around you, ask yourself, do they push you forward or pull you back? Do they build or turn or complain? Do they take responsibility or make excuses? Because over time, you will become a reflection of those answers. And here's the part most people avoid. Growth often requires distance, not out of disrespect, but out of necessity, because you cannot build a different life while staying fully attached to the same mindset. Now think about this carefully. If you were trying to become physically fit, would you spend all your time around people who never exercise, who eat poorly, who mock discipline? Of course not. So why do people do that with money? Why do they expect to build wealth while constantly surrounded by habits that destroy it? It doesn't make sense, but it happens every day. Now here's the shift. You don't need perfect people around you. You need people who are trying, people who are aware, people who are moving forward even slowly, because progress is contagious, just like complacency is. Now let me take this one step deeper, because this next habit is where everything starts to connect. You fix your environment. You stop chasing fast money. You control your lifestyle. But if you don't fix this next behavior, you will still struggle because this habit operates quietly inside your daily routine, and most people don't even realize they're doing it. Habit number 5, living on autopilot with your money. And this one is costing people more than they think. Habit number 5, living on autopilot with your money. This is one of the most common and most ignored habits because it doesn't feel like a mistake, it feels normal. You earn money, will you spend money, will you repeat? No questions, no awareness, no control, and over time that lack of attention becomes expensive. Let me explain what autopilot really looks like. Your salary comes in, bills get paid, subscriptions renew, small purchases happen throughout the day, food, transport, random expenses. And at the end of the month, you look back and think, where did it all go? That question right there, that's the warning sign. Because if you don't know where your money is going, you are not in control of it. And if you're not in control, something else is. Habits, systems, companies designed to take small amounts from you consistently. Now here's what makes this dangerous. Autopilot doesn't destroy your wealth in one big moment. It drains it slowly, quietly, in ways you barely notice. A few dollars here, a few dollars there, a subscription you forgot about, a habit you never questioned, and suddenly 100, even 1,000s are gone, not because of one bad decision, but because of a lack of awareness. Now, listen carefully, because this is where most people misunderstand the problem. It's not about cutting everything, it's about knowing everything. There's a difference because when you become aware, you start making intentional decisions. You stop reacting and you start directing. Now here's the rehook you need to hear because this is where control begins. You cannot fix what you don't track. You cannot improve what you ignore. And right now, most people are ignoring their money. They're hoping things will improve without ever changing how they operate. That doesn't work. Hope is not a financial strategy, awareness is. Now I want you to imagine something simple. For the next 30 days, you track every single dollar, every expense, every payment, every decision. No judgment, just awareness. What do you think would happen? I'll tell you, your behavior would change immediately. Not because someone forced you, but because you can finally see the truth. And when you see clearly, you act differently. That's how control starts, not with big moves, but with small awareness. Now let me take this one step further because once people become aware, they often fall into another trap. They start trying to control everything perfectly. They overthink, they hesitate, they delay decisions, and that leads to the next habit, one that looks responsible but quietly holds people back for years. Habit number 6, waiting too long to take action. And this one is more dangerous than making mistakes. Habit number 6, waiting too long to take action. This one feels smart, it feels safe, it feels responsible. You tell yourself, I need to learn more first. I need to be sure. I'll start when the timing is better. And before you realize it, weeks pass, months pass, sometimes years pass, and nothing changes. Now understand this clearly, there's a difference between preparation and avoidance. Preparation moves you forward. Avoidance keeps you comfortable, and most people confuse the two. They keep consuming information, watching videos, reading advice, planning, thinking, but never actually doing anything with it. And here's the harsh truth. You don't build wealth by knowing, you build wealth by executing imperfectly, repeatedly, over time. Now, here's where this habit becomes dangerous, because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. You build pressure in your mind, you overanalyze every move, you become afraid of making mistakes, so you delay even more. And that cycle, that hesitation, it costs you time. And time is the one asset you can never recover. Now listen carefully, because this is the rehook that most people need. You are not supposed to feel ready. If you wait until you feel fully confident, you will never move. Every person who has built anything meaningful started before they felt prepared. They made mistakes. They adjusted. They learned, and they moved forward. That's the process. Now compare that to most people. They wait, and while they're waiting, someone else is already building, already learning, already improving. So when you finally decide to act, you're not starting from zero, you're starting behind. Now let me ask you something honestly. How many ideas have you had that you never acted on? How many opportunities did you let pass because you weren't sure? That hesitation, that delay, that's not harmless, that's expensive, because every time you delay action, you delay results. And delayed results compound into a delayed life. Now here's the shift you need to make. Stop asking, what if I fail? Start asking, what if I stay the same? Because staying the same is the real risk, not action, not mistakes, not learning, staying stuck. Now let's bring this together, because if you've been paying attention, you'll notice something. None of these habits happen overnight. They build slowly. They feel normal. They feel harmless. But over time, they shape your entire financial life. Living above your means, saving without building, chasing fast money, staying in the wrong environment, ignoring your money, waiting too long to act. Each one on its own seems small, but combined they become a system that keeps you stuck. Now here's the good news. If habits can destroy your wealth, they can also build it, but only if you become aware, only if you take control, only if you decide to change. And that decision has to happen now, not tomorrow, not next month, now. Because the longer you wait, the more these habits compound and the harder it becomes to break them. I've spent my life watching people with money and people without it, and I can tell you something very simple. The difference is not intelligence, it's not luck, it's behavior, small behaviors repeated consistently so over time. So if you want to change your financial future, you don't need a miracle. You need awareness. You need discipline. And you need action. Start small, stay consistent, and most importantly, stop doing the things that are quietly holding you back. Because once you remove those, you don't need to chase wealth. You allow it to grow. And when you reach that point, something changes. You stop feeling pressure. You stop feeling behind. You stop trying to prove anything to anyone. You simply build quietly, consistently, with control. And that is where real financial freedom begins. That's all.